How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Are we rolling?
We are.
Do you want to lose your league on draft day? Well, stay tuned, and we'll tell you who not to take to make that happen. Producer. Welcome back to the Fantasy Forecast on Fantasy Sports Advice Network with Grindberg and bigz. I am bigz, he is Grindberg, and Schultz is here. Brought to you by the Southern Bluegrass Fantasy Football Championship. How you guys doing?
Man, I'm doing great, bigz. It's a sunny day up here in Canada. I was just sitting by the lake all afternoon by the beach and got a lot of sun. So that's why I'm wearing my Bass Pro Shop hat, because we're about to go fishing after we wrap up these shows tonight. How about you, Schultz? How you doing, buddy?
Let's go, man. Hey, I'm doing well. Had a good day. Ready to do this.
Sunny, balmy 88 degrees here in Northern California, and I'm doing just fine. Thanks for asking. Yeah, it's been nice. Hey, so welcome back to the Fantasy Forecast right here on Fantasy Sports Advice Network. We are scanning the skies of the 2025 fantasy football season, and we're going to warn you before the storm hits. And we got guys to talk about that maybe you don't want to draft at their ADPs. So let's get into it, shall we?
Yeah, I mean, these guys are, a lot of them are big name players that are, hovering around some of these ADPs that are just kind of scary. They may have a situation, bigz. I know, like your first player here, something just came up over the last week here, and some news happened, and it's probably affected, your draft strategy, and you're going to be warning our viewers on this player. Who are we talking about?
So I'm talking about Quinshon Judkins. Now, this is right now, it's a case of buyer's remorse. I drafted him in the Scott Fish Bowl. I drafted him in a rookie draft in a dynasty league that's fairly important to me. And over the last week, Quinshon Judkins has been charged with domestic battery. His partner, girlfriend, whatever, had noticeable bruises, went to the police with it, and filed charges. So it's a fluid situation. The problem is that Jerome Ford, Cleveland Browns running back, had a fairly okay season last year, coming out from under the shadow of Nick Chubb. And they also drafted Dylan Sampson, who I did a lot of research on for our rookie guide. Go get the rookie guide, and wrote him up. And he's kind of a small guy, but somehow has fantastic goal line capabilities. He's also super, super fast, and he was the youngest running back in the entire draft, which is telling for fantasy future. Now, Judkins, he was supposed to kind of enter training camp and maybe take over that job, and he's been drafted like that. Now we're very unsure what his situation is going to be. And to top all that off, he hasn't even signed his rookie contract yet. So he's technically not even on the Cleveland Browns at this point. So right now, if you're in redraft leagues, keep an eye on Quinshon Judkins. We need more information. If you draft him at cost right now, you're not doing it with all the available information. I have big buyer's remorse with this guy, and I'm not looking forward to the next couple months.
Yeah, that's a murky situation. Me, like you, bigz, have some shares of Quinshon Judkins, especially in the fishbowl, like you mentioned as well. Saw the value there before these incidents happened. I mean, he was in the right situation. He was set up for a monster rookie season, and a lot just went down the drain here. I mean, it was speculative. So, I mean, he could still be that person, but you never know at this stage with these charges and how the NFL is dealing with these types of matters. Schultz, anything to add to that, bud?
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, I literally took him in my live draft and got home and saw the news. Like, it was hours. It was hours difference for me. And so that was a big letdown. But yeah, like you mentioned, the NFL is kind of weird with this stuff. If you've already got shares of him, you're just hoping that maybe the suspension comes, in 26. But yeah, if you're still drafting,
But that still doesn't even resolve the contract issue. He hasn't signed his contract. The Browns have his rights. They could not want to deal with it and not like they could pull their offer. They could trade him away, trade his rights to somebody else. Who's going to want to sign this guy when he's got open charges with evidence and all that stuff, a pending suspension? Like, it's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah. And just look at what happened over this last 24 to 48 hours over this Rashee Rice news. All of a sudden these charges came down. You never know what could happen with this Judkins situation. Now, Schultz, get into one of your avoids at their ADP headed into 2025.
Yeah, all my picks tonight are kind of just like gut calls here. And this one feels kind of nasty to even say out loud, but I think I'm not drafting Mike Evans this year. And I get it, Mr. 1,000-yard, Mr. Consistency. Dude has been, top 10, top 15 wide receiver year in, year out. And actually, funny, we talked about Fishbowl here at my live draft. One of the guys at my table, after he drafted Mike Evans, said, has anyone ever drafted Mike Evans ever and then been let down at the end of the season? And he's like, I don't think so. And I was like, no, you're probably right. You probably haven't. Like, literally, this dude, you draft him, he's gonna produce for you. But I think this is the year that you're finally ready to jump off the wagon. He's about wide receiver 20, and some of that price right now has some of the factors baked into it, and so that makes it a little bit of a harder do not draft call. But I'm still sticking to it. I just look at this offensive switch from Liam Cohen to Josh Grizzard, and Josh Grizzard was the passing game coordinator for the Bucs. So there's some familiarity there, and that should help. But I'm really concerned about this loss of Liam Cohen when he stepped in as offensive coordinator for this team. Like, he ascended Baker, he ascended the run game, which helped the pass game. And I just don't know if we can say this is going to be seamless and there's going to be no hiccups. And on top of that, you hit it last week, Mike, but Emeka Egbuka is really freaking good. You don't take a guy in the first round to not have the intention of featuring him. And I think he's gonna chip away at this target share. Evans only saw 24.1 target share last year. It was 31st among wide receivers. So he's not getting like super funneled to targets, and the target competition just got harder. Emeka Egbuka is good. Like, if you want a guy, I think you can pass and wait and get Egbuka later. At this price, around this ADP, give me Devontae Adams, George Kittle. I'll take Ken Walker, Omarion Hampton. I'll draft all those guys before Mike Evans right now.
Last year, Mike Evans finished as the wide receiver 13 in PPR, and he finished 20th in total receiving yards, just eclipsing 1,000 yards. There were 21 wide receivers that eclipsed 1,000 yards, and Mike Evans was one of the least of them. Now, going into this season, and Mike and I have talked about this on this show for a couple of years, at some point, Mike Evans is not going to hit the 1,000-yard mark, and are you going to be the one holding the bag when that happens? I think, Schultz, you are kind of right on with reading the tea leaves and saying this is probably the year that it finally doesn't happen. But if it does happen, let's look at where he winds up. The top 20 wide receivers hit 1,000 yards. He could wind up somewhere in there. If he's being drafted, if you're getting him in the late 20s, in the early 30s, that sounds like it's fairly good value to take the risk on. But right at wide receiver 20, You're looking for a 17-game season with no injuries from an older player in a dynamically changing offense with many more targets than they'd had in the last couple of years. And I agree with you. I'm out too.
Yeah, I mean, me too. I mean, unfortunately, I think this is the year, although like his price point is just so expensive. He's being drafted like he's going to come and repeat last year. And I just think with the competition with Amuka there, even Jalen McMillan, like I don't think the dust is settled on him either yet. So there's a lot of opportunity here, and injuries could play a factor. So I think this is the year to back off. I wouldn't be surprised if he hit 1,000 yards, but I think, even him playing a full season, I could even easily see him just, ending off around the 700 to 800 yards because of the way the target shares will be spread out between everybody else and a new offensive coordinator like Schultz had mentioned. So yeah, a lot of factors here. And, a guy who I'm going to be talking about is, someone that is entering, a season here where he's got a new offensive coordinator. There's a lot going on around him, and I'm just not willing to buy in on the price point for David Montgomery. I've got Jahmyr Gibbs highly, highly touted this year, and he's been one of the most dependable RB2s in the game. He's thrived under Ben Johnson's offense, which masterfully balanced the both of them, him and Gibbs. And fantasy managers have been counting on the same formula in 2025. I think they're going to be headed into some, cloudier skies, if you will. New offensive coordinator in town, significant changes across the offense. Montgomery was once stable in his role, is looking, not as safe in my opinion. Currently going as the RB21 right now. That price tag is just too much for me with the stability in the offense undergoing a complete physiological shift. I think John Morton's history leans towards explosiveness, not grinders. With his goal line throw is now threatening. His receiving work has not really been there. I know, Jahmyr Gibbs, I could see him getting around 100 targets. I know, Schultz, you're very high on him. And guys, I'd be drafting over David Montgomery at this stage. I'd be looking at, Tre'Veon Henderson, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, Travis Etienne, who I'm really high on headed to this year, Caleb Johnson, and even Isaiah Pacheco has been steaming up in my books. So I think a lot of this stuff is coming down to just situation, new system potentially, and just being drafted a little bit too rich for my blood, with a lot of things potentially going out of his way with some O-line degrades and stuff like that. So I'm just a little bit less on David Montgomery in 2025 for his price tag.
I agree here. Like I said, I love Gibbs. And don't forget, this is a guy who's coming off a torn MCL late in the season, and rather than repairing it surgically, he chose for rehab to push for that playoff appearance. And he's an older back coming off a pretty significant knee injury, and that's kind of scary. And I view this situation moving from Ben Johnson to their new offensive coordinator. There's no, kind of like the Bucs thing. There's some uncertainties, and we can't just pencil him in for the same type of usage he used to see. And I really think this stretch run for Gibbs last year showed the team, we've got to make him the guy. We can't be fooling around with this anymore. He is just that good, and he's too good to take snaps away from.
Yeah, I love David Montgomery's consistency. If we look at every year since his second season when he finishes RB4 in Chicago, last year he had the most points he's had since that year. His finishes have been 19, 24, 17, 18. He's had 225 to 201, 219, 185 carries. So he is the model of consistency. He's good for 200 carries every season. He's good for a top 20 finish in fantasy, and he's good for missed games with an injury. But as we watch the changing dynamics in the Detroit Lions offense, it might be better to kind of take a step back, wait on David Montgomery to fall to you if he's going to be drafted out of the top 24, and then grab him, because there is some floor that's inherent in David Montgomery, but we may not see a 260 point output from David Montgomery ever again.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it there, Biggs, because I'm not completely out on him. I'm just out on him on his draft price. If he slides a couple spots, yeah, I'm hammering the floor on that. I love it. And you know what I love? I love what's going on here at the Southern Bluegrass Fantasy Football Championship. It's going to be held in August, and we're going to hear from our sponsor. We're going to hear all about it right now.
Looking to take your fantasy football experience to the next level? The Southern Bluegrass Fantasy Football Championship, or SBFFC, is the premier live in-person single-entry tournament east of Las Vegas and is happening in Bowling Green, Kentucky, just north of Nashville and south of Louisville. Join fantasy football diehards for a 2-day draft weekend filled with energy, competition, and community. Expect free beer, bourbon, barbecue, and live entertainment hosted by the Western Kentucky University Dance Team. You'll draft on massive FJFantasy.com boards, enjoy giveaways, and even have a chance to win signed memorabilia and bourbon bottles through raffles and a silent auction. The SBFFC is securely managed through LeagueSafe.com, with all prize money held and paid out at the end of the season and championship round. Winners walk away with stunning Trophy Smack trophies and belts, and of course, lifelong bragging rights. To learn more, check out the official promo video on YouTube and click to visit SBFFC.com for full details. For questions or to reserve your spot, email Dr. Brian Harwood directly at brian.harwood@twc.com.
You had me at free bourbon.
You had me at free beer. All right, Biggs. You know, we had a couple big names in that first segment, so let's keep the big names rolling. Who do you got as your number 2 guy?
So I am absolutely not sold and completely out on Jeudy. I never liked him. I've never, ever put any heavy investment into Jeudy. And when Cedric Tillman went out with injury last year, Jeudy and Jameis Winston combined for a fairly good year. I want to say Jeudy hit the 1,000-yard mark. He was kind of fantasy relevant towards the second half of the season. But let's face it, when he and Cedric Tillman were on the field at the same time, Cedric Tillman was the go-to wide receiver in that room. It was not Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy benefited from Cedric Tillman getting hurt. Cedric Tillman is going to lead that god-awful Browns wide receiver room in 2025. Jerry Jeudy is being drafted as if he's going to. I'm taking Cedric Tillman every single place that I possibly can because he's an absolute smash value. And Jerry Jeudy is just not it, you guys. There's a lot of hype out there. Now, the market is kind of correcting itself over this summer. And the last couple days, there's been kind of a little bit of a drumbeat for Cedric Tillman. And I think it's because people are starting to not react to Jerry Jeudy's second half performance last year. And they're starting to kind of remember who Cedric Tillman was fantasy points per game wise in the middle of that season. The Browns are going to struggle. And it's going to be Joe Flacco, maybe. We don't know what's happening with Kenny Pickett. Like, what are the Browns going to do? They're the kind of situation where there's only going to be one guy that you want to own, and that's going to be Cedric Tillman for me, not Jerry Jeudy.
I love this call, and I think Schultze was first on the scene with the Cedric Tillman heat. I think maybe people were onto his forecast show 2 weeks ago when he mentioned Cedric Tillman as a guy he had under his radar. Obviously, Schultze, you're probably on this call with Biggs.
Oh, you know it. And on the Tillman train here, I know this is about Jeudy, but we're talking about not drafting Jeudy. So let's pump up some Tillman. Our boy Chev just posted a little bit ago on Twitter about Tillman. And among the 12 players with at least 39 targets during that 4 or 5 week stretch that Tillman went off, he was 6th in route participation, 6th in targets per game. And like the usage is there, the yards were there, the fantasy points were there. Like, all signs point to the Browns discovering a gem and utilizing that. And he got a concussion and it knocked him out the rest of the year. So, yeah, man, like the Browns seem to think that this is the guy. So you should too.
The Tennessee Volunteers have been much maligned in fantasy circles. The wide receivers that are coming out of that program, Cedric Tillman, Jalen Hyatt, and Dante Thornton. And I have a feeling that this year, all 3 of them are going to hit.
And you keep talking about that, and you keep leaving out Velus Jones. What's wrong with you?
All right.
I think he's already in a senior home.
Okay, Schultze. I don't think you're talking about a big-bodied wide receiver with your next one, but give us a ring on who you're fading here.
Nah, man, this one is baffling to me. I cannot get down with the sickness here. Why are people drafting Jonnu Smith as the tight end 10? It makes no sense at all. I understand if he was a Dolphin, you'd probably draft him even a little higher. Like, I would be so down for that. But this trade absolutely tanks his value to me. I don't want anything to do with him. And it makes me sad for Pat Freiermuth as well, because I was looking forward. I have Freiermuth in a league, and I was looking forward to a step forward for him. But, man, this just tanks both of these dudes. We're going into an Arthur Smith offense. And when he only has one tight end to use, like at Freiermuth's price, I would have been in and playing with Rodgers, who's carried some nice tight end performances. But then when you muddle it up and get two guys, I'm out. Jonnu Smith has one like legitimate fantasy season, and that was last year in a Miami offense that's pushing the ball, running a bunch of plays. He saw 111 targets, which was astronomical when you look at the rest of his career. I just don't see it. Yes, this dude is super athletic. Yes, we saw last year with the 88 catches and the 8 touchdowns. You go back to his time in Tennessee with Arthur Smith, and I know that's why they traded for him, because Arthur Smith has familiarity with him and he's used him and knows what he can do and whatnot. But his best season in Tennessee was tight end 16, and he caught 8 touchdowns that year. 8 touchdowns for a tight end and was tight end 16. I cannot get there with this. I don't trust Arthur Smith at all. I don't trust the fact that he's got, Freiermuth in there. So there's 2 pretty solid tight ends in the same room. There's nothing at all to like here. I cannot wrap my head around drafting this guy at tight end 10. Totally out on Jonnu.
This is the 3rd year in a row that Arthur Smith has absolutely pissed off the fantasy space. 3 years ago was when he drafted Bijan Robinson. Last year it was when he wouldn't throw to Kyle Pitts, and now he trades for, or 2 years ago, Kyle Pitts. And then 2 years ago, he goes to Pittsburgh and starts making people mad there. And then this year he goes and he just completely torpedoes the value of both Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth. I'm in a league, tight end premium, 1.5 points per catch for tight ends, and I drafted Brock Bowers, Tucker Kraft, Hunter Henry, and Jonnu Smith, and I thought this is going to be an absolute beast of a squad. Now Jonnu Smith is an afterthought, and guess who else is on that team? Quinshon Judkins. So,
yeah.
Check this out. On his sleeper page here, that says that they want to use him in a hybrid role and potentially as a fullback sometimes.
Yeah, makes sense.
Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, because that's Arthur Smith, and it's just it's not great for anybody involved here. And I think maybe the market just hasn't caught up to that, tight end 10 ADP at this stage. I see him fading towards the, the mid teens, maybe tight end 15 when it's all said and done after draft season. But yeah, when guys like you are pointing this stuff out, that's an obvious stretch here, Schultze. Yeah, our viewers need to know that stuff. And I think here's a stretch for me. And I think, maybe I might get some people that aren't going to be on board with this call, but I'm okay with it because I'm out on DJ Moore at his draft price. He's still being drafted as a solid wide receiver 2 in many leagues, often going around wide receiver 18 to 22. I think his price tag right now is wide receiver 20 going right now, and I just don't think that's going to match his outlook in 2025. After his career best in 2023, he slid back to wide receiver 26 in points per game in 2024 as the Bears offense evolved around him. and the arrival of Caleb Williams brought more passing volume. Moore had split his target share, and his average depth of target has shrunk. His days of being the clear-cut alpha in any offense, I think, are behind him because of his age, his decline, and because of the scheme fit that I don't think is going to feature him in 2025. Ben Johnson takes over as the offensive coordinator after engineering one of the NFL's most efficient and creative offenses in Detroit. The issue for me, though, the Sims system, it emphasized on interior weapons like Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and Sam Laporta, not perimeter wide receivers like Moore has been lined up in the past. He especially with Chicago, 74%, and it sounds like Luther Burden is getting the inside track on that slot role, which could end up going to Moore down the line. But with Roma Dunze emerging here and Colston Loveland being drafted, and I think we're all a little high on DeAndre Swift headed into this season now, and I think there's a lot of mouths to feed here, and that ADP of wide receiver 20 is just too rich for my blood, considering he was wide receiver 26 in points per game. Granted, all the things that I just mentioned, guys, as far as DJ Moore.
I think people are really sleeping on Luther Burden.
I love Luther Burden. I think he's been a great addition to that team. I think he's got that versatility. They might design some stuff right off the line for him. Biggs, I think you have some stuff to say about Luther as well.
Well, I see Luther Burden and DJ Moore as very much analogs of each other. I'm not really enthusiastic about any pass catchers in Chicago right now. I don't want Loveland because Cole Kmet's there. I don't want Cole Kmet because Loveland is there. I don't want Burden because DJ Moore is there. I don't want Moore because Luther Burden is there. I'm never going to be in on Roma Dunze. So I'm going to grab Roshan Johnson in some formats as a handcuff in the way later rounds, and maybe if I get the other DeAndre Swift to fall to me at a good value, I'm going to take him. I don't like Caleb Williams, but it's just the Bears I just don't want any part of, especially while they're getting used to this new Ben Johnson offense.
I think it's very telling that, obviously they took Loveland there in the first round, which if you felt super comfortable with your pass catchers, I know he's a different position, but they loaded up first and second round on pass catchers. So it tells you Ben Johnson wants more out of that group of guys. So obviously he's not, the biggest DJ Moore guy. You don't go dropping second round capital on Luther Burden if you're super excited about DJ Moore going into the year, especially with the where that roster was at. Nobody saw them going wide receiver in round 2.
Yeah. Yeah, and it might have something to do with, Trayvon Henderson going right before them. I think they had their eye on a running back, potentially a pass-catching one. That's what some of the rumors I heard. But, that's hearsay now at this point. They were obviously had a really high grade on Burden headed in here, and he got great draft capital, and that's exactly what I was looking for. And I think that's just going to be a thorn in DJ Moore's side. And I think if there's any one of those pass catchers I want is the later guy, and that's Burden going far, far later than either of those two other wide receivers. So before we get into our spotlights, we got to hear from our community, our fantasy sports advice community, where things are popping. Chelsea, let's hear all about it.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.
Do it. Go there. Buy the merch.
Do this stuff.
Yeah.
We love it. Yeah, hit the like button on this video. Keep them coming in, and be sure to check out the Southern Bluegrass Fantasy Football Championship if you're interested. It's a large tournament, over 250 participants, $250 buy-in. It's a great time, and it's a live draft, so head down to the site and check it out. Now, Biggs, let's get into your spotlight because we're all excited to hear bigz's big spotlight.
All right, there's a lot of wish casting out there where a lot of people are looking at the fact that Stephon Diggs left Buffalo and the Buffalo Bills drafted Keon Coleman, tried him on as an outside receiver last year. Mac Hollins left Buffalo, and a lot of people are really looking at Keon Coleman thinking this guy's going to take over, he's going to take the reins, and he's going to run with it. And I just want to point out a couple things, and this is courtesy of our friend Derek Brown, D-Bro. He points out that Keon Coleman was 27% in route run in targets per route run against man coverage and 14% in targets per route run against zone. He's not getting the ball. Last year, Joshua Palmer was 5th in separation and route win rate. Joshua Palmer came over from the Los Angeles Chargers, and whatever people want Keon Coleman to do this year, he's not going to do it. He can't separate. He has to be a slot receiver, and as long as they play him on the outside, he's never going to turn into anything in the NFL. Joshua Palmer is the one to own out of those two, and I'm not drafting Keon Coleman as a wide receiver 50, which it looks like that's where he's going right now. He's not going to be on any team that I have at all. Do not draft Keon Coleman. He will only disappoint you.
Man, we had a episode of the Dynasty Pulse earlier in the summer where we were highlighting, I think, like really deep stashes, and I highlighted Josh Palmer, and like he's a solid deep threat. And you're right, like the deep separation is there, and yeah, I think there's a world that he comes in and makes a pretty big impact and takes some of that work from Keon, and especially if Keon's not a great separator himself, I think there is some potential for a step forward in a way, because like as a guy who's not creating his own separation, like you really got to develop that relationship and chemistry with your quarterback. So I think going into year 2, like there's some potential on that, but overall, like, you want a guy to separate for himself and be like, yo, I'm wide open. And he's just not doing that.
As early as the NFL draft in April, Matt Harmon over at Reception Perception was talking about analyzing Keon Coleman's rookie year, and he basically came to the conclusion that somebody with his analytical profile is not going to hit in the NFL. People who are built like him, that have the same inefficient numbers that he has, they don't ever hit. And so people who are wishing that it's going to happen for Keon Coleman this year, sadly, it's just not going to.
Yeah, I mean, we had Pat Fitzmaurice on that Dynasty Pulse episode, and he highlighted as a guy that, potentially hasn't hit all those metrics headed in, that could be a guy that, might break out this year as a dart throw. And I could see where it's at, but I could see where bigz is coming from here. There's a lot of mouths to feed there. They're going to spread the ball around, and you need to have that connection with Josh Allen. I'm not sure he's going to, to get those deep targets, and he can't separate. So he's going to have to rely on those contested catch opportunities. And I just don't see that happening at this stage when they're more of a run focused team. And I see this being a different play out. So yeah, I like that call, bigz, a lot.
When the Bills move him to the slot and give him 120 slant targets every year, then we'll have another Keon Coleman conversation.
There we go. All right, Shelton, get into your spotlight.
Okay, I got another tight end for you, and strangely enough, I talked Jonnu Smith, and now I'm talking the guy replacing Jonnu Smith. The Dolphins go ahead and pull off this trade, get rid of Jonnu, and everyone's speculating, are they going to trade for Michael Mayer or Cole Kmet, or you name it? There was a lot of great potential options they could have done. Kyle Pitts maybe? That would have been fun. No. They went and scooped up Darren Waller off the street. And we had Twitter talking themselves into this dude being impactful. And I cannot get on board. Now, is it weird to say don't draft a guy who's currently being drafted as tight end 29? Yeah, I guess. But don't buy any of this hype. don't even think about it. If you're playing a strategy where you're passing up on tight ends early, don't let it fall this far before you're taking one. Don't take him as your backup. Don't take him at all. Like, this is insanity to me. When Calvin Ridley signed with the Jags, the entire narrative was that, oh, he missed a year and a half. He's never gonna come back from this. He's missed too much time, right? Like, it's just not happening. So, which was insane because he was younger, he was a better, a more productive player, and he was then spending his entire time off the field, like working out and grinding and staying in like super shape to get back and make his comeback. So why is it when Darren Waller gets picked up off the street, we're suddenly in when he spent his time off the field working on his rap career? I don't get it, man. He's 32. He's had 2 legitimately good seasons in the league, and the last one came in 2020. So we are 5 whole years removed from this guy being an impactful NFL tight end, and we are talking ourselves into him potentially having a real role and being somewhat of a thing. Miss me with that.
Yeah,
I was like,
absolutely. I was very close to the Darren Waller years as a Raiders fan, and he was fantastic for a very short window of time. I'm in a league. It's kind of a fun, dumb league. The first thing I said to Mike when we got on,
that's why you look so grumpy earlier. Forgive
me, Father, for I've sinned. It's been a week since my last confession. I drafted Darren Waller today. So in this league, I grabbed Waller in the 17th round. It's not going to do anything. I already have Kelsey. I already have Mason Taylor. There's a couple of guys that are out there. It's a Chuck Bass league. I'm not taking it seriously. All of my guys that I have, it reads like the 2022 Pro Bowl. Josh Allen, Josh Jacobs, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard, Najee Harris, Travis Kelsey. Like, except for the Mason Taylor pick, everything is just like guys who are 3 or 4 years past their primes. So I figured, why not? I'll throw a bone out there, Darren Waller, just to say that I have a share. But that's about it. I'm not taking him in any other redraft leagues, just that one. And it was 17th round. I got 3 more picks to go till we're done. And in this league, every week you have to drop a player. So if he doesn't come out of the gate just absolutely balling, he's going to be my first roster cut probably. So no danger right there.
I mean, yeah, Jonnu saw 111 targets. I'm looking at a lot of those that get shifted to Achane. Like I was just on here last week and said I think he's going to catch 100 balls this year.
And 50 more to Tyreek. Get him back to his 170.
Right. So what's a realistic target number here? 60, 70 tops? Like, that still feels like a lot.
That's now you're in the old Dolphins what's his name? Durham Smythe range.
Rivers Craycraft.
Yeah.
Hey, too bad his name's not Darren Waller, and you could have taken him in your T League.
There he is.
That's true. I still don't have a quarterback in that one.
There it is. All right, Schultz, let's run the clip on my spotlight. Okay, well, I'm going to bring some heat today because I've got a guy that is, averaging going off the board right now as the wide receiver 6 overall. And I just think that Amon-Ra St. Brown has been one of the safest picks in fantasy football over the last 3 years, finishing no worse than wide receiver 5 in PPR leagues since 2022. His route running, sure hands, slot dominance, his high floor wide receiver 1 in every format, leads the league in receptions per route run and deep connection with Jared Goff, especially in the red zone. Why would I be fading him this year as being so safe as a prospect? Well, He's going off as a wide receiver 6. I went on our show a couple of weeks ago saying how much I'm high on Jameson Williams. The whole Ben Johnson departure has a lot to do with it as well. I see him being, drafted outside of his comfort zone for me to be drafted in, because I see guys ascending ahead of him like Drake London, Brian Thomas Jr., Ladd McConkey, Nico Collins. Biggs went on a limb last week and talked about JSN, who I also have higher than Amon-Ra St. Brown this year, and also Garrett Wilson. I'm taking over him at their ADP. So I just think that, coming into this year with Jameson Williams stepping into a more full-time role, commanding more attention downfield. Don't get me wrong. I still think that Amon-Ra St. Brown is elite, but the wide receiver 6 pricing is paying for last year's volume without accounting for how the offense and his ceiling could shift this year. He only had 2 career touchdowns of over 40 yards, and those deep long plays is what makes these top 5 wide receivers click. His first in receptions per route run. He means a lead in consistency. He's a target threat, but I think the Morton offense is going to be more vertical than the Ben Johnson one, leading to less shots here for Amon-Ra to focus in on. And we got to keep in mind that last year he had 10 touchdowns in the first 10 games. So I think that touchdown regression is going to come down. I don't think he's going to score touchdowns at such a torrent pace in 2025. So I just think that his price and some of the guys I mentioned are just going at a better value at this stage. Anybody against that?
There's a couple of things. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. I love the Lions. Jared Goff is my homeboy. But there are 2 things that I'm looking at that Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't land in the top 25 in. And the first is yards after catch. He's not in the top 25 of any position in yards after catch. And he also doesn't wind up with yards per reception. He's not in the top 25 in either of those 2 categories. So there is no value add to Amon-Ra St. Brown. You look at somebody like Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce, not a lot of targets, but he led the NFL in yards per target, right? Keon Coleman was up there too, surprisingly. Jameson Williams, A.J. Brown. And then you go ahead and you look at that was their average yards per reception. Now you go ahead and look at Yak, and you got Jamar Chase, top of the board, Devon Achane, Khalil Shakir, Brock Bowers, Jahmyr Gibbs, DJ Moore, Brian Thomas Jr., Alvin Kamara, CeeDee Lamb, Bijan Robinson. That's your top 10, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown is not close to the top 25. So what you're getting is his receptions based on a huge target volume, but you're not getting any of that value added. He's not catching it deep. He doesn't have a high ADOT. He's not making stuff happen after the catch. So his value is basically like his ceiling and floor are very, very close to each other. He's going to do a lot, but he's not going to do much more than that. So give me somebody who has more dynamism in their profile, somebody who is going to get 120 targets, but do something after the catch when he has the ball, or be deep when he makes those catches like a Jameson Williams in that offense. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown, but he's not a top 10 wide receiver value in my opinion.
I mean, just talking about Gibbs a little bit ago, if we sit here and say that we think his usage is going to go up and his snap share is going to go up, well, then his targets are probably going to go up. So the target competition gets harder for St. Brown. And we can't sit here and pretend like Jameson isn't arriving, like you mentioned. And I think his role is going to be, 91 targets last year and 1,000 yards. That's absurd to hit 1,000 under 100 targets. And you got to imagine he's going to easily push over 100 targets this year. So I think that there are dudes in this offense that are commanding more work. And yeah, man, paying that type of price tag is tough when there's that much competition around him.
And they brought in Isaac Tesla as a higher round draft pick. So there is going to be more competition there for everybody in that room. The other thing that not a lot of people consider is there's only one team that has a worse rate of rest versus their opponent in each game going into 2025, and that's the Raiders. The Raiders are the only team worse than the Detroit Lions. We saw what happened last year with the San Francisco 49ers. They were a proposed Super Bowl team, but they had, up until then, the biggest historical disparity between their rest time versus their opponent week to week. And you saw what happened to them. Absolutely decimated by injuries. The Detroit Lions had a ton of injuries last year too, just not necessarily on the offensive side. It was all on the defense. So if their situation is even worse this year, maybe the Detroit Lions aren't going to lead the league in wins. Maybe they're not going to be a Super Bowl team. Maybe they don't even repeat as division winners, because that division is pretty tough. Minnesota took them to the end last year. Chicago's on the rise. Green Bay needs to try and get right. That's a tough division, and we might see the Detroit Lions fall off a great deal depending on the attrition throughout the season, based on the fact that they're going to be playing more rested teams every week. And I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm not gonna quit drafting him, but I'm just not going to take him where he's at. Yeah.
And I think just based off of the name, people are going to be drafting him around there without realizing, some of these things that we're pointing out today. So, yeah, great show, guys. Without a hiccup, really. Last week was a bit of a sandpaper, but we got through it. And this week we thought we were going to head into that direction, but we nailed it, boys. And, bigz, take us home like you do. Mention some of the stuff that we got going on, man.
This is probably the best show we've ever done. Go ahead and like and subscribe. Hit the bell. Get into the comments. Argue with us. Tell us how stupid we are fading Amon-Ra St. Brown and stuff like that. Keon Coleman's going to be a top 12 wide receiver this year. Tell us we're wrong. That's what we're here for. We're here for the back and forth. Go to fantasysportsadvice.com. Get your merch. Get your membership. Sign up as a pro and you get qualified for our Jersey leagues. We'll have way more information on that once the expo comes up in a couple weeks. Mike and I are going to go to a Pirates game in just 3 weeks, I think. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fantastic. And if you're in Canton, Ohio for the Fantasy Football Expo, come say hi.
Yeah, and don't forget about the Southern Bluegrass Fantasy Football Championship going on the week after the Expo. It's going to be a lot going on here for FSAN, and we're glad to have you all aboard this crazy ride. So from all, choo-choo. bigz, let's do it. We hope you win.
We hope you win.
Hope you win.
Bubba Wallace here from 2311 Racing. Funny thing about being fast, you end up waiting a lot. First to show up, first in line, then just waiting. Me, I rev up Chumba Casino. With over 200 social casino games, no slow lanes here. Why sit around when you can spin? I'm already racing. Your turn. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.